In this video, we're going to take a look at activity 4.1, part 1, and that's going to be to start making some of the pieces for our Automoblox car. So if we take a look, there's 3 documents in there, and you should probably have all 3 of those open in separate tabs. This first one are the directions for how to make each of the parts. The second one is the one you're actually going to turn in, where you're going to paste your screenshots. And this last one is the drawings that's going to tell you how big the different parts are for the car. So if we take a look at this first one, the first thing that you're going to do is to make this Automoblox body. And you're going to use those T9 drawings to create that. So if you notice, there's a wooden block that has rounded corners. There's a hole in the top. There's a hole in the front side, and then there's also a hole on the back side for this. So the first step is going to be to take a look at these T9 drawings, go down to the drawing of this object. Now, of course, these are not the style of drawings that we're going to be making. Rather than showing you the correct drawing, they show you an isometric view that shows all the dimensions that you need to create the part. And then we're going to be making the part in Fusion and then making a drawing that shows the part. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide what view I want to sketch on and which way I want to make this. And of course, I could extrude in any direction to get started, but I think it's probably easier if I start on one of these ends and draw the rounded body for the object rather than filleting later. So I'm going to do that. First, I'm going to go into Fusion and go to my data panel and create a new project. So new project, Automoblox underscore your hour and your computer number. And then I'm going to come over here and save this, not in my Automoblox Mini, but my Automoblox project, and I'm going to call it body. I'm going to start a sketch, and I'm going to sketch on this plane and start out basically just with a rectangle. In this case, I could put in the size of the rectangle, or I could just draw a rectangle and detail it later. I think I'm going to do that. Now I'm noticing that I'm in millimeters. If I look at the drawing is all done in inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. But then I'm going to come into my document settings, change my units, and change those units over to inches so that I can use the units that it's designed in instead of having to do unit conversions for this one. If I hit D for dimension, I can tell it that I want the dimension from this place to this place. I can put it down. And then if I look at the drawing, that's this 3.16. So 3.16, that's the correct width. And then the correct height is this number 1.52. So here to here, 1.52. And now, like I said, I could extrude this and I could do solid fillets later, but I'd prefer to do the fillets using the 2D fillet method. And all of those fillets, this says 4xr.30. So that means there's 4 fillets that all have a radius of 0.3 inches. So if I go into fillet and I click on my first corner, change it to 0.3, and then I can click on the other 4 corners and Fusion will make them all the same. I'll hit enter to accept that. And now I'm ready to extrude this. So I'll stop the sketch. E for extrude. And if I click in the center of this, I can extrude it. 3.16 is the distance that goes. So there's the beginning of my body. It is 3.16 in this direction, 3.16 in this direction. And now I have to decide which hole I want to make next. I think I'm going to make the one on the top. It really doesn't matter. But I'll do the same thing. I'll make a rectangle and then I'll fill it the full four corners, and I'll make sure that I have the correct width and the correct distance from one edge to the other. So I'll start a sketch. I'm going to sketch on the top surface, draw my rectangle, and then hit D for dimension. And there's the width of my box. That's supposed to be 1.98 inches. Next, I'll make the vertical distance, and the vertical distance is 1.59. And then next I need to locate it. So from the front edge, it's back 0.81 inches. And then the other thing is that it is centered. Now that number is not shown on this drawing. So I'm going to need to figure out what that number is in the middle. So basically what I'm going to do is take 3.16, subtract 1.98. That'll tell me how much is left over for the left and right sides, and half goes on either side. So 3 point, so I'm going to let the computer do that math for me rather than doing the adding and subtracting in my head. So I'm going to do parentheses 3.16 minus, and in this case, I'm just going to click on the 1.98, and the computer knows that that dimension number 6, is 1.98. I'll close my parentheses, divide it by 2, and it will center it in the middle of the part. The fx means that it's using a function to figure out what that number should be. And then I'll finish this up by doing my fillets. In this case, these fillets, there's 4 of them, and the radius is 0.2 for each of these fillets. So I'll fillet this corner, 0.2, and then I can fillet the others like that, and stop that sketch, and it's ready to extrude and cut into the part. That extrusion distance is 1.07 inches. So E for extrude. This is what I want to extrude. I'm going to do a cut, and the distance is going to be 1.52. Sorry, 1.07. And notice it doesn't look like it's working. It's going the wrong direction. It needs to go negative. Negative is usually into the surface you're sketching on, so that will do the cut. Click OK, and I've got the hole that the windshield fits in. The next thing I need to do are the holes for the front side and the back side for the connectors to the rest of the car. So I'm going to do this one next because that's the one I can see. And I'm going to start it out just the same way that I did the last one. I'll do a sketch on the front, draw my rectangle. Now this time I want to be careful not to click on one of these other surfaces, these other lines that we see. Those other lines are actually the edges of these different curves back here. And if I click while one of those is highlighted, it'll lock onto that and make sure that it stays lined up with that. This hole is not the same width as the other ones, so I want to make sure it doesn't highlight one of these other edges when I click. So I'm going to go in the middle of those, and then I'm going to make sure when I click this other one that I'm not on one in that direction either. And then I can start my dimensioning. So sideways, it's 2.40. So here to here, put the dimension down, 2.40. Vertically, it's 0.93. So from here to here is 0.93. And then it says that from the left to right, let's see, from the right edge of the hole is 0.39. So from here to here, 0.39. And then vertically. And this one, it doesn't do a great job. It doesn't actually show us what that number is in this view. So we're going to come over in this one and use the 0.29 that we see right here. So from here to here, 0.29. And now notice everything is turned black because it is fully constrained and it can't move on us. We'll add the fillets that we need. And we'll have this portion ready to extrude. So according to the drawing, the holes are going back 0.57 inches. So we will stop the sketch, E for extrude, and click on that. And we're going to go back in so to make it a cut, negative 0.57. And OK, there's our first cut. And then we'll rotate it around to the back side and create a sketch on this surface and do the same thing that we just did. So we'll start a rectangle that's not snapping anywhere. It looks like I might have grabbed something there. Let me undo that one because those two turned black, which makes me a little nervous that it did grab onto some surface that was already there. And make sure that I put this in a random place. Everything is blue, which means it's not constrained. Dimension top to bottom, which is 0.93. Dimension from the top, 0.29. Dimension left to right, 0.24, 2.4. And then from the edge to the right side, 0.38. And we'll round our corners with the 0.2. Hit return to accept that. Stop that sketch. And then if we go back to an ISO view, we can extrude that also. Negative 0.57. And there's our final cut. If we go back to the home view, there's our body surface. So we'll save that. And we're ready to take a screenshot, put that in the assignment, and move on to the next part.